All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a good Saturday or whatever day it is by you. Um, hey, my name is Willade, and welcome to my Pandas coding session stream. This is my second time doing this, so still feeling out the right format. But for today, happy to answer any kind of questions that you may have. Type away, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just look at the queue. And I think today I'll start off showing you a relatively easy change if you're a new contributor and want to get involved that anyone can pick up. Certainly say take after I kind of show it to you. And then after that, I want to go through setting up some new Docker images, which I think will help out new contributors as well. Reason for that is if you are a new contributor to Pandas, or even if you have experience doing it, I think it's kind of painful to set up a development environment. There are some things that we could do that would make it easier, and I think Docker is going to be one of those tools, so we'll continue to talk about that. But for now, let's just go ahead and jump into GitHub and have a nice empty queue of notifications, so that's great. Nothing to catch up on there. I'm going to go ahead and also open up my terminal and my text editor. And I'm going to go ahead and, oops, that's the wrong project. Don't want arrow, want pandas. Hey, Dennis, welcome. Okay, so I mentioned there's kind of a relatively easy issue that you could start with as a contributor. But first and foremost, let me jump into my local repo and make sure I'm up to date. So I always like to check out main and git pull upstream main. So upstream for me is the pandas repository. If you do git remote v show, you can see what your remotes are. And yes, here we have upstream as pandas. So I always pull things from there, push things to my repo. Pretty common development methodology we have. So let me go back actually to, I'll just go to any of these for now. And I mentioned there was a pretty easy issue, and I think I opened this myself a while back. Let me see if I can find it, unless someone's already, no. So we could do this, check the author, let's see what kind of issues I've opened recently. Not called PyUnicode. This one, number 49760. If you are interested in taking this on, again, I'll show you real quick what you need to do with this. So a little background. Pandas has been around for a while. And of course, like if you're new to Python, you probably never had to deal with this, but there was a Python 2 at some point. And the way Python 2 handled strings and Unicodes, different than Python 3. So we used to have some compatibility between the two, and we created some functions that would do that for us. It's a little bit unnecessary in today's Python. So there's this thing we have called getC string buff and size, and I'm just going to go ahead and search for that, getC string buff and size. And there's not a ton, but you could see here we have maybe, what's that, 8 references to it. So the main thing that we want to do is jump to, and I'm going to go ahead and, I like viewing things vertically here, get a little bit more space. So yeah, I could jump to the definition here. And, whoops, do I not have Pyrite installed? Let me check something. Mamba install Pyrite. Oh, you know what? This is a Python file, so there's no LSP support for it. Not a big deal. But yeah, you can see here that we have this thing called cdef inline const_char getC string and buff size. So this is a little bit lower level than most Python contributions would be. So you don't have to worry about like all the details here if you're new to Python. It can be a little confusing. But you can see that this function is really nothing but we're taking a string and a length, and it does nothing but wrap PyUnicode as UTF-8 in size. So we are a little bit lower level right now. If you really wanted to know about the details, you could always look up to PyUnicode as UTF-8 and size. I think this comes from the CPython. Yeah, here we go. If you ever want to get into like C development, um, yeah, you would see this as UTF-8 and size. So this is a standard thing from the C library, and yeah, we don't really need this wrapping function anymore. See, the idea for this this issue, is we would just blow this away entirely, and then every time that you see a reference to get C string, buff, and size, you instead would just use the built-in Python 1, which should be, I think, in Python directly. Actually, that's a good question. We have kind of an old import here from Python to H. So let's look at the Python source code really quick. I don't think I have that installed. Maybe maybe I made a mistake opening this issue. Happens all the time. Ashish asked, "Hey Will, would you advise us to go through the code review and development alongside you on our machines?" You can if you want, Ashish. It's not required though. It's up to you. I am going to try and move fast, so I'm not necessarily expecting you to do things side by side with me, but for sure, like, try along, and if you have questions, let me know. But yeah, it's not necessarily a one-on-one, like, here's step by step what you need to do. And Alex Haywood says, "We're live, baby." Yes, we are. Thank you for being here. Cool. So, what I'm looking for in Python is a lot of times they have these methods in here already wrapped for you, and I think it's in the Python folder actually, and probably in includes. So they're going to have a CPython include, and this is probably in string or objects. Let's see if they have something in string. Py object as, no, I don't know. Tell you what, we're going to make this even easier. I'm just going to go ahead and clone this. No reason not to have Python. So we'll do a git clone. And I don't know if Emacs is just going to pick that up. Maybe it will. Let's see. I'll jump into Emacs, switch projects, Python. No, it's not there. I think I need to open it one time for it to understand the projects there. So I can do my ripgrep, and we'll do PyUnicode as UTF-8 and size, and see what we get. So maybe they don't have it there. You know, sometimes you think you have a nice easy change for people to work on, and then you look at it and it's not quite as easy as you thought it would be. So that's where I'm at right now. Maybe it's in Unicode. Whoops. Okay, I don't need LSP right now. By Unicode. Okay, I need to do something with my LSP later. Not a big deal. As UTF-8. Interesting. So they actually don't even have that in Python. So maybe that's the change that we need to make first. And size. Wow. Let's see if there's an issue for that in Python. I know this is about Pandas development. Okay. So wow, we'll check that out later. But yeah, I guess I need to add a comment here. On review, I don't think this exists in Python, so needs. All right, so never mind on the good first issue. That might take a while, but yeah, the idea is Python would have that function wrapped. You could see it already that they're doing this like cdef extern from and they have all these PyUnicode things in. Those map back to the standard library. PyUnicode methods, PyUnicode decode, right? I think you'll see that in here. Unicode, decode, oops, underscore decode. Yeah. But they don't have the one that we need. So once that, in theory, if and when that does get added, then yes, it's pretty easy. You could just do from CPython, just like we have up here, we do an import that says like from CPython.object, C import something. The idea is we would also do PyUnicode as UTF-8 and size, and that would work instead of us having, again, that wrapper function of C get C string buff and size. That's interesting. So anyway, that is a failed attempt at a good first issue for users, but hopefully hopefully you got to see something of the standard library there. Again, like we are pretty much written in Python, but we use Cython underneath to basically take Python-like code, convert it into C code, and that's how we get a lot of very high performance methods. So you would see all the Cython and C stuff that we have written is in pandas underscore libs. And yeah, you would see that basically on in your folder as well. I don't really use TreeMax, so maybe I should to make that easier. Let's see if that helps at all. Yeah. So yeah, if you're used to this kind of view from VS Code or something, it would be there. Now, interestingly enough, I don't see. Here we go. So pandas libs, right? You see all these files underneath here in TreeMax. Those are all the Cython files that can get converted into C files for us to make things really, really fast. So cool. I'm going to step out of that for now. Don't need my TreeMax buffer anymore. Don't need that. And let's close that down too. Yeah, we could close a couple things. So, again, jump in with any questions. Looks like we don't have any right now. So I'm just going to jump into another discussion that we've been having as a Pandas core team, which is wrapped up in probably a few discussions. Now, if you were to, look for contributing to Pandas and you're starting for the first time, you get this whole section on, creating a development environment. And one of the downsides to this is, we do need a C compiler. I talked before that we get a lot of performance because we write kind of in Python, but also in Cython and C. So Cython makes C files for us. And to actually build the project, though, you need a C compiler. It's a little bit different from, I don't know, if you just picked up a smaller Python project like maybe Black, I think is completely written in Python. So if you want to work on Black, you don't need a C compiler. Honestly, most Python projects are not going to require a C compiler, but when you're in the scientific stack, it's pretty much a given. And depending on your platform and your experience with lower level languages, that could be kind of challenging. It's a issue that new users, I think, get stuck on sometimes. I don't know how Windows works all that well, so I can't answer questions, but you do need some build tools set up for that, and I've seen some issues in the past with that. On Mac OS, you have to install some Xcode headers, and maybe this has gotten better. I know in the past I used to, develop on Mac OS, and Xcode would always kind of do something with the headers that was strange, and again, when you're starting out, if you have issues like that, it's really intimidating when you're just like, I wish I could just help Pandas with this one documentation change. Linux, you're usually pretty good, but there's still issues with setting up Mamba. Or I should say, not necessarily setting up Mamba, but getting a Mamba installation complete. So if you ever did the full guide, you'd probably end up with a Conda environment named Pandas Dev, which you could see I have here active now. But I didn't do this on the stream because it still probably takes I don't know, 20, 30 minutes to set up for me. And there's this discuss. So one of the reasons for that is we have a huge environment file, environment.yaml, and that is what you install um, when you. Oops, I don't need to go that. So if you ever install a pandas environment, you get all these other dependencies as well. Now we have these as optional, and the reason why we have them as optional is because you don't need them to necessarily build and run pandas, but if you want to run the full test suite, you do need them because they are either downstream dependencies or used in a lot of the I/O testing that we have. So there's two schools of thought there. It's like, okay, maybe we just give them a really minimal set of requirements and users can build with that and then deal with it after the fact when they need to go down and install, I don't know, Psycop G2. And then the other school's thought is let's just give people everything and that way they don't have to worry about extra installations. So we have historically gone with that latter approach. But again, the problem is because these environments are pretty big, they take a really long time to solve and install. So step one here in this issue is to just reduce the amount of dependencies that we have in environment.yaml. So Eurus, longtime contributor, maintainer of Pandas, has some good ideas on things that we could take out to at least make this solve a lot easier when we're talking about environment.yaml. But the other thing, and if you aren't familiar with Docker, I've kind of thought like maybe we should do something closer to what Python does as a standard library. So if you aren't familiar with Docker, it's okay. I can give you a quick overview. But if you looked at Python, they give you a lot of different platforms that you could pull from. So you could see that they have Alpine. Alpine is a really small Docker image. So if you want like the most minimal image that you can get, you can see here that Alpine is only 17.35 megabytes with a full Python installation. That's pretty cool. And then aside from Alpine, they also offer Debian installs. I don't know the best way to search this. You see they have a lot of tags, but maybe if we just look at like 3.10 builds. Let's see what this does for us. 3.10.8. Alpine, Slim Buster, Bullseye. I think Bullseye and Buster are old Debian names. And they even have some Windows Server Core ones here, so I'm not as familiar with how those are set up. But yeah, you could kind of see that like they're helping you set up different development environments, or in this case, not necessarily a development environment, but an actual Python installation that you could use for developing other things, either through Debian or Alpine. And you see Debian's not like a huge system. It's still 334 megabytes compared to the Alpine at 46. So it's pretty wild how small Alpine is. And you get into the Windows one, things are definitely bigger. But yeah, kind of alongside this reduction of the environment.yaml, I thought, why don't we just like start producing these Docker images and it'll make it easier for new contributors to get up and running. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that today. We'll jump back into my pandas, and I'm going to start Docker images. So the idea is, if this works out well, and maybe it doesn't, but we should have, in theory, a pandas page here on Docker Hub with some pre-canned installations that would help you get up and running with pandas development nice and quick. So for now, we're in the process of working with Docker to try and get an open source account. Don't have that yet, so we don't have the official pandas page. I may just wait for that, or maybe publish it to WillAid on the Docker thing. So we'll keep the channel updated as things make progress. But yeah, so I'm not really sure even where to best place this stuff. Maybe in the CI folder, if I look at what we have there. And I don't know if this is the best place, but I'm just going to say something like CI Docker files. And let's just jump into there. And sure, I'm going to create a Docker file.alpine. And I actually started this, I think, on my desktop just to kind of mess around. Maybe I didn't have that there. So I take that back. Maybe that was on a different computer. Doesn't matter, as throwaway work anyway. So I will go back to the Docker file.alpine, and we could just build this from scratch. It's kind of cool to see that process anyway. So I do know Pandas is a Python project. At a minimum, we need to start with Alpine. So I'll just grab this 3.8 or 3.10 Python 3.10.8-alpine image and create my Docker file this way. And let's see what else we may need. So we're definitely going to have to do some installs of what I know are like really core packages to Pandas. So if I were to do a pip install, we definitely need Python, NumPy, PyTZ, and Python date util at a minimum. And what else might we need? Let's just try that. It might require a little bit more effort, but that's okay. That's what we're here for on the stream. So what I'm going to do is, let me see what my current images are. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and try and build this image. So I'll say docker build, and I'll tag this pandas alpine, and I'll just run it from, I think you could explicitly say docker file.alpine. Oops, maybe I still need to say the dot. Okay, cool. So we could see here that it's pulling from 3.10 to Alpine, and it's installing those packages. Now, I have a feeling this might fail, but let's see. Okay, so you can tell here on the pip install, it's say building wheels for NumPy. Okay, cool. So that means that there is not a NumPy Alpine wheel. You need to actually build it from source, and there's something here about packages not available. So let's see if we can find an initial blast. That's info. Maybe it's okay. I feel like there's going to be an error somewhere around here. Definitely getting some warnings. Oh, no such file or directory GCC. So that's definitely a problem. But what we can do is actually jump into, so because I started with that first step of from Python 3.10.8 Alpine, I should have that now on my local list of images. So I think I could just do docker run rm it python 3.10.8/alpine, and let's see if that jumps us into this. Okay, so there's one issue I just noticed. If I run that image, it jumps us right into Python, which makes sense for the default Python installation. But I think for us, we probably just want to have it open up a shell session for us. So I'm going to add that to my Docker file. I know that's a given, and then I'm going to try and run that. Okay. And then another thing that I want to do is set my working directory /home/pandas. And so I could do that here interactively on Docker run if I do /w/home/pandas. Right. So we see now that if I look at where I am in this image, I'm at /home/pandas. Now this is going to be empty. That's okay. I could do which GCC, and it's not there. So I think on Alpine they use a package manager called APK. We'll try APK search GCC. So that's one issue. It's not updated, so I'm going to say APK update. And APK upgrade, maybe? Okay, we can just chain that into one. This is, if you aren't familiar with Unix tools or Linux tools, pretty much all have a package manager that updates and upgrades. You'll see that similarly with Debian, Ubuntu. They have APT instead of APK. Similar commands. So now let me try to search for APK GCC, and there's a lot of GCC stuff in here. But I wonder if there's something called build essential. So if you've ever been on, for instance, on Ubuntu and you see a build essential package, that gives you kind of what it thinks are the really critical things for building C, C++ projects. So build essential has like GCC, usually has Git, G++, all those different compilers. So they don't have build essential, but they may have build something. So let me just pipe this into less and see what we're working with here. Build. I feel like they have. I've seen this before just from experience. There might even be a better way to search here. APK. Let me run that previous command, and maybe I'm looking for a build something. Nothing. Okay, so let's try this. We could just do APK install GCC anyway. APK help. Apparently it's not install. It's add. APK add GCC. That's going to install GCC for us. So now I could try the same thing. Pip install numpy. I know numpy had the issue before. And it's going to go through and build things for us. Let's see if it works. Still nothing there. Broken toolchain cannot link a simple C program. So we must be missing some libraries. Cannot find, and we see this in the error messages. So if you ever try to install a Python package in the future, there's these things called wheels, and then there's source installations. So let's go to like pypy.org, right? Excuse me. And I'll search for NumPy. So if we pull up NumPy, you'll even see in their download files that they have source distributions and built distributions. And this is specific for pip installing. So Conda works a little bit differently, but similar concept. So the built distributions, if you're on Mac OS and you're running Python 3.8, it says, okay, you know what? They've already pre-built something for Python 3.8 on Mac OS. Just give them that pre-built installation. They don't need to do anything else. But let's say, I don't know, you're running Python 3.7 and you try to install NumPy. You'd get an error, something like this, probably not the same, if you don't have all the development tools upstream. So users run into this a lot when they pip install, especially when like new Python versions come out. People try to install, Pandas like day one when Python 3.12 releases, I guess will be the next one. And they'll find out that, oh, hey, like it doesn't work on 3.12 because there's no built distribution. So pip falls back to saying, okay, here's the source files. Now go ahead and build it from source. And if you don't have all the source dependencies in place, you won't be able to build it. So cool. Anyway, that's a whole summary of wheels. Now, I don't know what this library is, crti.o, and I'm not super familiar with APK, so I don't want to try and figure out how to search for that. But what I could do is just say, if you get an issue like this, this is where Google comes into play, or whatever your web browser is. Cannot find crti.o, and Stack Overflow is always my biggest thing here. Debian Ubuntu, GCC multilib. Let's see if anyone has anything for Alpine. libcdev, okay. museldev, so that is one option. Cool, so we'll try libcdev, maybe that's it. APK add libcdev. Okay, so we now have that, and I'm going to try my pip install one more time of NumPy, and hopefully this is good to go. No errors just yet. That's a good sign. Still errors though. Let's see what we're missing. No such file or directory G++. Cool. So I probably could keep going and try to find all the minimal ones, or I might just look for Alpine Build Essential, because I know Build Essential has all the tools that we need. And let's see if build, maybe it's build base. Yeah, build base. Okay, so let's try APK add build base. And it looks like that added G++ for us, the C standard library. So it added make as well. Make is a common tool for build systems. So now, let's see if that does everything we need. And no errors so far, so I'm taking that as a good sign. So while that's finishing, what I'm going to do here is add a line that says APK add build, what's that, build base, right? Build base. And I think that should make it so everything else is installable here. This may take a minute because we're building Python from scratch, or I'm sorry, NumPy from scratch, but I do think that that's going to solve the issue. So let's let that run and see how that works out. Now, in the meantime, this is Alpine. What I might also be interested in is doing a Dockerfile Ubuntu, and I'm going to do a minimal distribute. Actually, you know what? For now, we'll do Ubuntu all. And sorry, I'm not going to do that. Dockerfile pip all. We'll set it up that way. And I don't care about that right now. So let me look at the other Python distributions that we have, 3.10.8. I think they're just going to have a default 3.10.8. So we can grab that one for this, and I'm going to say from Python 3.10.8. And I think on this one, apt update and apt upgrade, I'm pretty sure this is Debian. They probably already have Build Essential, but let's take a look at that in a second thing here. So we'll do Docker pull Python. Actually, I might already have this one. Python 3.10.8. Got it. So we'll do Docker run it Python /bin/sh. Ooh. Maybe it is 3.10.8 I need. Cool. So let's see if we do an app search build essential. Let's see, they probably already have pip. Okay. So we'll try Python and pip install NumPy on this image. My guess is we might need some more stuff, but maybe it just works out of the box on this. Okay, so this worked perfectly. I think the reason for that is NumPy here likely has a wheel that works on that platform. So there's this whole like many Linux wheel thing. I don't think Alpine is compatible with that, but many Linux would, in theory, support a variety of different Linux distributions. So there's a whole PEP on that if you wanted to look at that too. Multi-Linux PEP. Again, we're pretty deep into systems today. But yeah, you can find that whole kind of reasoning here and what many Linux means and what it supports. But that's good. So on my non-Alpine image, which is a little bit bigger to start, I know that I don't need that set of minimal things. And actually, it looks like here, my pip install went through fine on Alpine. So with that being the case, I'm going to try and install everything here that I need. Python, numpy, pytz, python date util. Finish up the rest of the packages. And then, cool. So I think that would be all we need really for an Alpine image. So let me try that build command of Alpine one more time. Tag it Pandas Alpine. Again, that could take a second here. Meanwhile, for the non-Alpine, we'll skip that add build base. We don't need it. And I think we could just jump into these. And exit. Whoops. So let's see if we could build something here. We'll call this one Pandas pip, and actually pip minimal. And current directory, and I'll say docker file pip minimal. I'm going to change the name on this, docker file pip, docker file pip minimal, something like that. Don't need pyrate. Definitely going to have to fix that up. That's okay. Go back to my docker file pip all. So this was my pip minimal, just really doing the basics that you need to get up and running. And we have something here. We need to do apt upgrade -y, I think. So what happened there is it was going to do an upgrade and then it asked if I wanted to do yes or no, but because I'm not really doing anything interactive, the Docker file stops because it doesn't give me any place to say yes. So we'll try that with the -yes. We have multiple work streams going on at the same time right now. High speed Saturday development. So let's keep this moving along. And my guess is this one may even finish before the Alpine one. Because again, we don't need to install NumPy from scratch. Looks like there's a wheel available for the platform that makes it really nice. So we'll give that a second. And while we're doing that, we do have already in the repository this base repository with pretty much everything. So you can see here, this is saying install things from our requirements.dev.txt file on Pandas main. That goes back to where we started this conversation. We have a lot of dependencies. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop that in there. And that'll be pip all. So look at that, pip minimal finished. Let's just get these all running. Build, docker build pandas pip all from docker file.pip all. We'll let that run as well. That could take a little bit longer. But let me make sure now. So if I look at my Docker image list, I should have my pip minimal only coming out at a gig, which is kind of nice. That's not super big. So let's jump into that one and see how things look. Remove im pandas pip minimal. And we missed the work dir, I think. /home. What happened here? Let's jump out of that. Docker file pip minimal /home pandas. Let me see if I do /home pandas. Okay. Whoops. So actually, I think it's working. Forgot one thing. With Docker, you need to mount your current directory. So I'm going to take where I'm at now on my file system, and that's not correct. Let me jump back to the project root. So I'm at the top level Pandas project. So now what I'm going to do is say, go ahead and mount my current directory. That PWD works on all platforms, I'm pretty sure. So if you're on Windows, you could try this as well. And then this would just do pandas pip minimal. And that should jump me right into my /home/pandas. Okay, so that's where I am, although that's not correct. Let's see what's going on here. I think I have some kind of issue with my workdir setting that I put into this, so we can change that pretty easily. Yeah. So maybe that's supposed to be just like that, not a list. Let me try to rebuild that image from the pandas minimal. CI Docker files. Guess I have to do this both places. Okay. So let's try that. Okay, now we're in the right directory, and now I can see everything. So the last thing that I want to do is make sure that we can actually build the pandas project. So we're going to try this at a minimum, and no module named versioneer. So I'm missing versioneer. Let's do a pip install versioneer, see what that does for us, and let me try to, oops, rerun things again. Okay. No section versioneer. So that's not good. I kind of noticed this. Python import versioneer. Versioneer.version. Doesn't have one. Okay, there were some recent changes to our repository that I'm wondering if they had some kind of impact here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this for now. Just put some number in there, it doesn't matter. And let's see if I run that now, if that works. Pip install versioneer. Okay. So we can see that things are moving along. I'm compiling the whole project, and this is working pretty good on this image. So I'm going to make sure that I add versioneer to all of these. Docker file Alpine, we'll add versioneer. Docker file pip all, that's going to have versioneer in it. And what happened here? Apt update and app upgrade. That seemed like that worked really fast. Docker image list. Oh. Apt update. Let's go back to the all one for a second. This needs to be apt y. Okay, we'll try that. Lots of builds going on here, and it looks like Alpine finished. Let me see what the size of all of these images are. So Alpine, you can see, is pretty small, 373 megabytes. So yeah, the idea is that we could distribute, in theory, an Alpine 1 that you could pull down 373 megabytes and just start working with. So if you're in a really small system, or you tend to pull a lot of images down, you're not going to beat Alpine in terms of space savings. Now, with that said, we don't officially support Alpine at the moment. I think some work would need to be done there, but I'm pretty sure it would still pick things up and be able to work with it. We'll check after this minimal setup completes. This build might take a little bit of time, so let's let that continue. So man, we are chugging right along, but at this point we have a few things going on here. So you have versioneer there, and let's see what's going on. Okay, so we have pip and minimal and all distributions. So I think the last thing is it would be nice for us to provide distributions for people that want to use Conda. And we previously had this, maybe a little bit more complicated than it should have been, in my opinion. But let's see if we do dockerfile.conda, or we'll call this Mamba all. So if you look back in our history of changes here, this is actually one that I know I did recently. And streamline Docker usage. So previously, it looks like quay.conda forge/mamba forge. So I'm going to use this as my base image. And I don't know which installation that does. Oops, I guess we could just grab that. Mamba forge. Now this says you need a couple new recommends here. I'm going to try without that. I think Eurus had a question if we even needed that too. Tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead and grab that image for now too. Let's just see what that starts with. Actually, we'll come back to that in a second. I've been hopping around a lot while all this is running, but the screen in the middle is a completely built Pandas installation on Debian. And I don't, what is uname? I think it'll show you the uname-o. Okay. I thought this would show you the operating system. I assume this is just Debian, I'm not really sure. But I've pretty much gone through and built everything, so I can import Pandas as PD, and it should work fine. Everything here is good to go. I have my data frame, I have my series, I can look at PD and inspect the object, and that's how you get a Docker image set up. Now again, we would, in theory, have this pre-published for you, so you could just say Docker pull my Debian development image, and once you have that, you would go through and actually build things, right? You would go through and run your, today, the build ext command. That may change in the future as we continuously update our build tooling. But yeah, 1 gigabyte gets you all of that pretty easily and really minimal. Now, one last thing that I'm not really sure about is I probably can't run PyTest because I didn't install PyTest. So we're going to add that to the Docker files as well. PyTZ, let's do this in alphabetical order. PyTest. So I'll do a pip m install PyTest. Oops, Python m pip install PyTest. That's what I meant to do. Okay, we'll do Python m PyTest pandas just to get it running. See what happens here. Ooh, no module name hypothesis. So I guess we need that as well. Hypothesis. PyTest pandas. And let's see, this should start running the environment for us. Now again, we're not going to be able to run every test. For one, it takes a very long time. That's not the goal of this session. But two, we didn't give you the all environment. So this is as small as it gets to be able to build and test the core functionality of Pandas within this image. So I am going to make sure that we add these to the Alpine as well. I definitely need this in Alpine to get that to run. And I'll do one more rebuild of Alpine. What the hell? You could see this is the all environment, so this is still taking a while to run. Yeah, so we will just let that do its thing. PyTest is collecting things. I don't need to wait for all this, but I just want to see it start. And actually, what we can probably do to make this a little bit faster, Python m PyTest pandas. I'll give it access to 8 cores. And I don't think that space works. Python m PyTest pandas -n8. So that should start using 8 cores. No. I think it's because there might not be PyTest async IO. So never mind, I take that back. But here, let's just limit this to like one library. So if I want to do Python m PyTest pandas /test IO JSON. Excuse me. Unknown config option async IO mode. So maybe we do need that as well. Python m PyTest pandas. Let's take a look at that. Pandas. Okay, so maybe we need pip install PyTest async IO as that package. It's always interesting to go back and run all this to reevaluate what you may need. While that's running, we'll do one last one here. Docker pull. I think I just grabbed this one. Okay, we'll let that run. Python m PyTest pandas /test IO JSON. All right, there we go. Now we see things are running. Some errors, probably due to missing dependencies, if I had to guess, or test things. So there's some cleanup that we're going to have to do if we want to officially support really small images. You can see these are S3 tests, right? So they're failing because S3 isn't installed. We probably should make those skipped if S3 isn't installed. It's not in scope of this initiative today, but okay, so I also need to add PyTest async IO. So we'll add that to Dockerfile Alpine. We'll add that to Dockerfile pip minimal. And I think that's good for now. So I'm done with this image. I'm just going to go ahead and clean things up. And the, yeah, this being the Dockerfile minimal. I'm pretty happy with this so far. So we'll let this run. I can exit that container. One less container for everyone to look at. Here's the all container. So let me do Python m, I'm sorry, Docker run rm it pandas pip all, and this should jump me right in, and I need to mount the pandas directory. Jump up, -v, print working directory, home /pandas, and that should work any minute now. ls, ooh, oh, Docker, whoops. Have that typo. Docker file pip all. Should not be this. Should be home pandas. Let me check my Alpine. Same mistake there. All right. So one more rebuild should do it for us. Shoot, I should not have stopped that. That's okay. Let me jump back to, whoops. Docker files. I'll go ahead and rebuild that. Should cache. Okay, good. Let's try to run that again. ls, there we go. So let me just check this environment as well. And place J8. As long as we get a built Python or pandas and we can test it, we are good to go on that Docker file. And that will give us the pip ones. Let me see if we're looking at Mamba Forge now. So you can see this one's a little bit bigger. Looks like it is 408. That's okay though. We could do Docker run. Let's just inspect this one for a second and see what it gives us. I also don't know what the entry point for this is going to be. So things are slowing down a little bit. Okay, there we go. Cool, so it looks like this gives us a Mamba environment to begin with. Okay, Ashish asks, hoping to do a first-time issue, do you recommend going through the steps you have highlighted with Alpine Docker image or git clone, then download dependencies manually without Docker? You're probably going to want to do the latter for now. So because I'm working on this right now, I don't know how long it's going to take for us to have this like fully approved and merged in. If you're with Docker, to start, whoops. Might be pushing the limits of my computer here. Okay. Let me jump back to, let me see what's going on. Maybe that build, maybe doing both these builds at the same time isn't good, but I can get. Let me get back to, give this 1 second. I'm going to let this finish. Sorry, having some technical difficulties. Yeah, sorry, Ashish. I hit a bit of a lag spike there on my computer. Can you hear me now? Hope you can hear me now. Let me know if not. Okay, I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so sorry, I hit a bit of a lag spike there on my computer, building too many things at once. But yeah, and sorry, I don't know where I got kind of chopped off there. But if you're brand new, Ashish, If you have Docker experience, then we do already have one Docker step um, documented, Docker step documented, saying doc a lot. So you can go through this. Um, and yeah, I would actually even look at, sorry, go to the dev docs if you're ever interested in contributing. Dev docs is the place to go. And then you will see steps for creating an image today with Docker. So this is just building what we have in the root of the project. So you will already see a Docker file there, and it works fine. I think this whole thing about creating multiple images, though, is just to maybe even make this easier in the future. So go ahead and try it today using the Docker file that's there. It's going to be pretty similar to like the all setup, so it may take a few minutes, but there's no problem with using the existing steps in the documentation today. I will say most people right now are just doing the Mambo with a C compiler, but part of the reason for this session today is like we've had a lot of people that just have had issues setting up environments, and when we do like sprints and stuff like that, we'll lose like 20, 30 minutes to environment setup. So it's just an effort to continually make things easier, but the documentation today works. Also, I guess a plug for my other YouTube video. You will see in my videos, there's this whole thing on setting up a Pandas development environment. So check that out too if you need more info. Hope that answered your question. If not, let me know, and happy to go into more detail. Let me find my images again. So this one here in the middle was my all image. So let me just make sure. It looks like everything built. Python m pytest, pandas tests, io json. Now this one probably won't have the S3 failures because it's going to have S3 installed. It might just be really slow to run them. I don't know how fast those tests are, but we'll see what happens there. And then, yeah, it looks like the Alpine image finished as well. So let's jump into Alpine after this one and see everything that's going on. It's kind of cool to work on like 6 different operating systems at once. All right, so the S3 thing probably still did fail. It's just taking longer. Those might just be poorly written tests. So in case you can't tell, one of the things that I always find interesting is like, I've been working on Pandas for 6 years, and I run into issues all the time. I mean, every time I build these tests, there's a lot of surprises that pop up. So I think also advice for new contributors like you, Ashish, and anyone else on the call. If you have an issue and it doesn't seem related to what you've done, just kind of push through. I mean, there are a lot of unrelated issues that pop up, and it's unfortunate, but yeah, it does happen. So there's so many things that need to be fixed. I am just going to ignore the fact that these tests are failing because I know I didn't change anything with the JSON stuff. I might even just pick like a smaller file to try this on. But yeah, if you are a new contributor, don't be too intimidated by things like that happening if you can avoid it, because it happens. Yeah, so see if I just like ignore those S3 tests that probably need to be fixed too, then things work fine. So that is my all installation. Let me X out of this one and see how big that one was. So it looks like when you go from Pandas pip Alpine, you have 380 megabytes. Pip minimal is a gig and 1 gig, and then pip all is 2.63 gigs. So you can see, again, depending on your computer setup, 2.63 is kind of a big image. Maybe you can't have that because you have 10 other images. So you'd probably opt for minimal or maybe even Alpine as well. Again, Alpine not supported just yet, but I'm curious because now that we have it done, in theory, if this one works, so we'll do docker run rm it sv. I'll take my current directory, I'll mount it to home/pandas, and I will run pandas alpine. And let's see if we can get this to do a setup for us. That's a great start. Things are moving along. We are whittling down the issue list as we speak. So I'm going to let that run and jump to looking at what we have in this Mamba Forge image that, again, I'm not super familiar with. I don't know what type of image this is. Linux, Ubuntu. Okay, so this is a Ubuntu image. So it looks like in the past we would even install stuff like TZ data and dialog. I wonder if that's already pre-installed. Usually if you do app search TZ data, and there might even be a better way of doing this, but this will find TZ data for us, and usually it'll say it's installed already. We'll let that run. While I'm looking at this, I see in the other screen back on Alpine, I get warnings. So warnings are almost never good. These are probably bugs that need to be fixed, but it's not going to stop the build for now. So we'll let that do its thing. Maybe I need to do apt update. Let me make sure we have all the packages updated. Always forget to do that step. So we have to make sure to add that to our Docker file. Mamba, run apt update and apt upgrade -y. Kind of do that all the time. And wow, yeah, it doesn't look like TZ data is installed. So it's a little bit different from the Python image where it was installed. Because I'm guessing in Python they do a lot of time zone data, so you need to install that. Whoops. Need to install that separately here. It doesn't come pre-installed on this image. What happened to my Emacs? Oh no. There we go. Apt install TZ data. Let's see what else we might have here. Do we have Git? We have Git already. What other libraries were they installing previously? Apt-utils. I don't even know what apt-utils is. Let's see what it gets us. Package management related utility programs. Now there's a way to see what's in that. Okay. I don't know where exactly. And it might have been even, I think someone gave the. Okay, so maybe you just have to go to the actual listing here. So we'll go to packages, ubuntu.com, and we'll see what apt-utils is. I don't know if this is, I don't know how old Lucid is. I don't know what they call it now either. How old was this comment? It's a long time ago. Let's see if they give us like a search system here. Bionic. Let's do Jammy, and we'll look at apt-utils and see what's inside of this. So yeah, I'm guessing it just gives us all of these. C++ compiler. But let's try without it. I mean, we already obviously have apt. Oh, here we go, list of files. Let's see what it gives us. Solvers, bin. Yeah, I'm not sure that any of these we really need additionally. So I'm going to skip that from the original thing and just try to come back here. So we need TZ data, and then I guess what we could do is just mamba env Oh, let's also set our work dir home/pandas command -sh, although it looks like that's the default. And then after the work dir, what I could do is do run mamba env create run environment.yaml. I think should pick that up. So let's give that one a run. This is going to take a while, so definitely going to figuratively grab coffee, but I'm actually not. So we will do build. We'll call this pandas mamba all, and we'll say it's docker file.mamba all. And that's not going to find it there. CI docker files. So we'll let that run. And while that's doing its thing, I'm coming back to my Alpine image. Looks like everything ran fine. In Alpine, I can import pandas. Let's try some tests. PyTest, pandas, test, IO, test, JSON, test, pandas.py. We'll test that one Python module. One error. Yeah, some read JSON or S3 stuff that probably shouldn't be running at all without S3. But that's okay. So we will exit out of that. And I think we're done with the Alpine image. So that's cool. And I did still have one more bug to figure out. Oh, ooh. Interesting. We have to answer some Mamba questions here. How do we configuring TZ data? Oh. Unable to. So maybe this is why they had dialog here before too. I'm not sure what these packages really do, but let's jump back in. Let's try it. The Mamba one's going to be the most difficult. It's definitely a big repository. I'm just going to enter that now. We need to figure that out because that's not correct. We don't want to have to do that. And that looks like it comes from TZ data. So I wonder how that's getting popped up. Let's see. In the meantime, I can prune images I don't need, save some space. So this one might take me a little bit longer than this session, so I'm happy to continue working on it, although if anyone has any questions, again, we can switch to something else and look at that too. So don't be shy. Okay. Okay, this is interesting. So this person's saying if we run our Docker file with Mamba, oops, can't type. And if we run it with, maybe we don't need dialog, maybe we just need Debian front end equals non-interactive. Okay, maybe that'll do the trick. Thank you, Internet Stranger, for that advice. All right, sweet. Interesting. Okay, so we can't do create from environment.yaml there. We have to do it from, I think, the URL. So let's see what the help gives us here. From file, ooh, I wonder if, oh, let's see if that'll do a file for us from a URL, kind of like we have with pip. If not, this is going to be a little problematic. We don't need requirements, that text. We need environment dot, what is it called, YAML? YML. Okay, let's try that. Okay, I think that might be working. Now, Mamba can take a while, so let's let that do its thing a while. What I'm trying to figure out is, okay, we had to do one last thing. Okay, and we could do Docker file, Mamba, then we could do a Docker file, Mamba, minimal kind of setup. So just like we had name pandas dev Python equals 3.10.8. Let's add the other things in here. I'll split my screen. Docker file, Alpine, what else do we have? Python, hypothesis, NumPy, PyTest, PyTest async IO, PyTZ, Python dateutil, and versioneer all seem to be the minimum things we need. Can move this around just for consistency. It looks like in the other files that's there. And then let me go back to my Mamba all, switch things around, put that there. Let's just put that on new line for some readability. And cool, so you can see it's chugging along on the Mamba side. Let that continue to do its thing. I think it's good to go. Now the last thing that I wasn't sure of is I did have to change the setup.py. I don't know what I'm doing here, git diff. So that's a little strange to me. Let me see if I really need to, if I can undo that, what would happen. So I'm going to go back into my Docker run, Mamba slowing, pandas alpine. Let's do pandas pip all. Let's see what this does for us. Things have grinded to a halt. Yeah, Mamba takes a bit to solve, so I think that's, again, one of the reasons why it'd be great if we had this prepackaged in an image for you. You could just download it and not have to worry about computing that all yourself. But let's see. Might need to let that run for a bit. Let's jump back to GitHub, see if anyone's asked anything on GitHub in the meantime. Okay, so we have some remove OK warning, that's okay. Popped up. Come on, Mamba, don't freeze me. Okay. Let's take a look at a couple of these a while. Usually when I look for PRs to review, I'm kind of looking in my area first. And I usually look at like IO stuff, also performance things. I don't see anything in here that really sticks out as either of them, so I of course can also just grab anything. So let's see what this one is from Marco. I already approved that, that's okay. I can't believe this is stuck right now with the Pandas Pitball. Might cancel this Mamba one until later. I'm a little concerned about that blowing up the system. So let's see if I come back to this, what happens. And instead of doing the full Docker file, we can do Mamba minimal, I think. And try that out. Mamba minimal. I don't know what happened to this one shell. Let's jump back and see what's going on here. Hope I didn't crash things. Let's just get rid of the terminal for a second. Maybe something happened with that. Got to be careful pushing the system to limits on a live stream. Here, let's even make sure we have performance boosted. Okay, there we go. Let's jump back to clones, pandas, Docker run, IT, let's me, pandas, PBI. Whoops. Maybe something happened with my Docker and it got tripped up. Should not be taking that long to load. So let's go ahead and hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can get this fixed up again. Just going to try and restart Docker. And, says it's running. Okay, so we just restarted it. Let's see now if we can get things to run. Okay, we're in. We are in. Man, so that one Mamba build must have crashed things. It's okay. Let's see though if we can get this to run without messing the setup file up, which I had to do before. Okay, so that looks okay with all distribution. Maybe it was the minimal. No module name versioneer. Thought we added that. Should be in there. Let me just make sure that we have everything we need for that image. Whoops. Okay, so this should be able to install the NumPy wheel. Shouldn't take long on this image, super small. Yeah. Okay, so we should be done in a second. Try to run that again. What did I miss here? Oops. Should have used pushd and popd, but I was lazy. So just running by directory and setup.py build ext in place. So that's working too. So there is apparently some issue with, I believe this was with the Alpine image. So like when I run setup.py build ext in place, here I get some, no? Setup.py clean. Oh. Alright, let's see. Python setup.py build ext. I thought I was getting some weird issue with versioneer, but maybe not. Oops. Okay, so maybe we are good to go with all of that. Very interesting. Cool. So yeah, then the last thing here would just be getting that Docker file to run for Mamba. Let's try to do the minimal image first. Pandas Mamba min imul. And we'll do Docker file.mamba minimal. And yeah, let's see if that works. Unrecognized arguments. Okay. So I have something wrong in my mamba env create command here. I thought it could be mamba env. Let me see what I have locally. Okay, so if I were to just try and create Python equals 3.8.10 numpy. Okay. I thought you could just specify the packages that you wanted. During the create, but maybe I am wrong. Remote definition path. Okay, so we'll do this in 2 steps. We'll create pandas dev, and then I think mamba install should let us just install to a specific environment. Yes, so we'll do run mamba install c pandas dev, and then all that. So let's try our Docker build now. And I'm missing that escape character. Pandas dev mamba env create mamba env create name foo. Does that create foo for me? No. Always kind of get these mixed up a little. Conda env create. Okay, so maybe we need to use conda. The when to use conda and when to use mamba is kind of confusing to me. So if it's confusing to you, we are in the same boat. Maybe it's just conda create name foo. Okay, that did it. I feel like that documentation's not correct. If I read it correctly. And Mamba remove Foo all. Okay. So let me try this again. Maybe we could still do it in one step. NumPy Python equals 3.10.8. Maybe it was just kind of... Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm back to where I was before. So we're just going to get rid of the env thing. We'll call it that. And we're going to let this all run. Find my build command. And let's see what's going on here. We're going to let that run. So, if that's good, then I think the only thing left would be getting that entire Mamba environment. But I'm not going to try that again on the stream because I think that's going to grind us to a halt. So that's going to be a post-stream initiative. But yeah, the idea is that these images, I'm going to go ahead and upload them to Docker Hub. And you will see a change for me up on the Pandas page. So let me just look at these really quick. And I should be able to do that. And then Docker files for hub. We'll just say that for now. So I'm going to push this up and see how it looks online. Now this is good. That installed things pretty quickly. Yay Mamba, nice and quick. Then I think what we need to do is also, don't need Python anymore, don't need that, don't need this, a lot of empty tabs. Let me go back to our discussion on Mamba. So I think they had a nice command here, Mamba run. Okay, very cool. So I think whenever you jump in here, we want to do Mamba run. Do I need commas here? Yeah. No, what is it? No capture output. I'm assuming this will just jump us into the environment we want. And let's go ahead and copy all the commands they had here. We use bash. And I guess generally we could go ahead and use bash. I don't think bash is on the Alpine image, but maybe we should just do that for the other ones as well. Docker run pandas pip minimal. Let's see if we have bash here. I think we do. Bash is a little bit nicer than just straight sh. So cool, we'll change that. Whoops. And that was, let's do pip minimal. And yeah, so everything but Alpine can use bash. There's Mamba minimal. Let me run that one more time now with the command. So if I look at my Mamba minimal, I'm at 1.21 gigs. That's actually pretty good. Not bad at all. Not that much bigger than the pip minimal, which is kind of cool. So yeah, let's jump in and see if we did IT. We'll go ahead and actually, let's do this. Docker run, don't need it. I want to use my current directory, typing this a lot, /home/pandas, and then I want to use pandas mamba minimal. And let's just see how that, how that starts things off. Conda run. Do we need the bash C? I thought commands are read from the not. Yeah, I'm not reading any commands. I think I just need That, no. Let's see. Let's see what happens here. Oops, am I looking at the right? No. I need to build. I need to run the right command. Jump back. Let's try to run it now. Hopefully it gives us... Okay, it didn't activate the environment we want. No capture. Output. Pandas. Dev. Kinda env list. Okay, so we have that environment. Maybe we could just do Mamba. How can we do this? Mamba activate pandas dev maybe. Oh, something is not right here. Mamba activate pandas dev. See if we get this in the Docker image. No. Okay, Mamba init. Mamba run, no capture output. Let's see what Mamba run does. If we just do Mamba run / name pandas dev. I'm not super familiar with these commands. Mamba run help. Name of the environment. Mamba run /n pandas dev. Doesn't seem to want to activate that. Do we need to do a Mamba init first? Mamba run -n pandas dev. No. No, 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 no. Anyone on the stream know how to get this to work? Base Mamba not activating the environment. It's got to be some way behind the scenes to do it. Conda activate pandas dev. Maybe we'll do it. Okay, so it looks like Conda did the trick. So maybe we'll do Conda run. Let's see if that changes anything. If we rebuild this image, I'll jump back. Whoops. And I'll try to run the image now. Again, what I want to get is just the image started up with the environment activated. Still not working. Conda run. Name pandas dev. Conda run -n pandas dev. Wow, maybe it's Conda init. Now can I run? Maybe I just need to do this. There's got to be a better way to do this, but that's okay. So we could just do Conda. Let's do Mamba activate pandas dev, and let's see what that yields us if we build that. I don't know that that's gonna work, but or maybe it's okay to just have in the image. Maybe Mamba activate pandas dev will do, and then we could just change our command to /bin/bash, just in case it's not. I should be curious to see how that works. We'll build that. Ooh, so maybe we do run Mamba init first. Let's see what that yields for us. No, no good. I don't think. Mamba init to be able to. Let's see. Conda activate environment from Docker. There's got to be some image out or some information out here, no? Maybe there's a tutorial. Make run commands use the new environment. Let's see what this tutorial's from. Python speed. Not really sure what this is. Conda default env. Oh, maybe we just do that. Maybe that would be nice. Okay. Actually, I like that a little bit better. Less stuff we need to hack around in, so we could do pandas dev for now. Let's see if that build works. That did. I'm try and Docker run things, and nope, still in base. Domain pandas dev. So yeah, I don't know the inner workings here. If anyone else knows, jump on in. But yeah, let's try this command here of I don't know what shell does. Dockerfile shell command. Maybe that sets your default shell to something. I know command will be the default command that happens when you actually run something. Default shell used for the shell form commands. Okay, so maybe it's shell that we need to use, but let's see. Make run commands. Use the new environment. That seems kind of similar to shell though, no, doesn't it? Conda run in pandas dev bin bash. Let's see. Let's try one more time. Okay, sure. Let's change that to shell, see what happens. I don't know that that's good, but yeah, cool. And all right. Well, we're gonna have to figure that one out. I think for now, I'm good enough to just go ahead and add these. And I'll make a message like images. So I'll push this up for now, and I need to figure out how to actually get these on Docker Hub next. Again, we're waiting a little bit to see if we can get an actual open source account. We should be able to, but it takes up to 30 days. So I'll probably put these up and add some links. I'll add a link for where you can try and download this, and it'll be on Docker Hub somewhere. So if you are a new or existing contributor and want to try using really small Docker images, again, we'll have these small ones kind of put in there. Oh man, I don't have new lines on this. That is a problem. That is embarrassing. Let's add some new lines. That was one. Let's go back to Mamba. Add that there. What else are we missing? None of them. Okay, Mamba minimal. I already had that open. I wanted to change that to command. Maybe that was the issue. Giving this one last shot before I call it. Look into it after the stream. Oops, that was this tab, I think. Let's build that. Can't type. Let's try to run it now. I'm still not activating the environment, so that's okay. Not a big deal. We can work on that later. I'm going to go ahead and amend this last commit, and we could just push that back up as a force. Docker images. Sweet. So we should see that here. They look good. Inquiry with and I'm going to create this in draft mode just because I don't think it's ready. But yeah, those are the Docker files. Any questions from remaining viewers hanging around? Thanks for staying this long. Appreciate you spending time on a Saturday with me. Looks like my queue for issues is kind of worked up or up to date. Let's see if there's anything else that kind of catches my eye here in the reviews. Maybe a bug fix. Convert to nullable integer. So let's see, what's the issue here? I mentioned this before, but typically when looking at pull requests, the first thing that I look at, and I know most other maintainers look at, is tests. So tests tell you everything you need to know. Looks like here there's some kind of issue. Maybe convert objects nullable none. So we have this internal thing called maybe convert objects, which is supposed to look at things that are objects. So here we have an array that is val none and 3. Looks like val could be int64 or uint64. So you would think that even though it's coming in as an object, you could potentially convert that to uint64 or what we have here, the integer array, which is essentially the nullable integer. And I'm actually not sure about the uint64. I'd have to see what the scaffolding there is like. I'm a little surprised that uint goes to integer array. But yeah, that is what is happening here. MP array dtype false, true, false. So this true is a mask, right? Saying it's a none or whatever. That's your Boolean array. Dtype and val. I guess it still ultimately converts to uint64. So I'm not super familiar with the cascading or the scaffolding of all the classes, but it looks like the dtype of int64, kind of starts here with the val and then gets inferred down there. So this looks good from a test perspective. I agree with the test and what it's trying to accomplish. And let's just look at the code to make sure nothing's too crazy. So it looks like there's this method called maybe convert objects, and the user is saying if seen null or, okay, if it's not null, or convert to nullable integer. So that must be some existing attribute that's already in this method, some existing variable. And it must be saying, okay, like, yeah, this is fine to convert to an integer. Seen int or seen uint. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I have nothing that sticks out to me with this change that I would say is wrong. I'd be kind of curious to just look at it because I am not super familiar with this file. But if I open up my lib.pyx file, looks like this starts on 2449. I don't want flymake with my Python files. I really should fix that up. And 26192 as well as another area. So it's a pretty big method. What is this method? Maybe convert objects. Wow, it's a huge method actually. So not something that we're changing as part of this PR, but yeah, seen int. So 2619, 2622 is where we're kind of adding things. So we have integer array. If convert to nullable integer. Yep. If seen integer, so if I'm looking at integer and I can convert it, do that, otherwise make it floats. So this is interesting. I don't know what these, I guess what we do is hold potentially different types of objects and just return one depending on how our checks kind of turn out at the end. So anyway, I think this is a good change. So I'll go ahead and approve it and just say look good to me if green. Again, ideally, not in the scope of this PR, but this is a pretty monolithic method, but I know super critical, so something that we can always look at. There's a ton of things that you could always do better in Pandas. Sample images. Let's look at one more. We have 7 minutes left in the stream, and if anyone has any in particular they want to look at, we could talk about it. Otherwise, let's look at these removal. I like looking at removals. Someone already approved this one. So I'm just going to look and see if anything looks crazy, but this is good to see. 85 lines of code coming out, only 15 going back in. The more we can remove, the simpler our code becomes, and it's just easier for people to contribute. So we are always, always, always looking at things here to simplify. And yeah, you could see here that we're pretty much doing the same thing. Constructor, new manager, convert. We're taking out some of these datetime, time delta, copy arguments, but otherwise the code's pretty much the same. Looks nice. Self convert. I think, interestingly enough, there's a new self type in Python typing. So if we go to Python typing and look at that, I'm not going to block this. And it's only new in 3.11 anyway, so no way we can use that just yet. But this is the idea in the future, like you are returning the same type as self. Here we use a type variable of t, but in the future you'd probably use self. So we'd have to wait until 3.11 is our lowest supported Python instance, which is going to take a while, and then we can maybe change something like that. But this is nice. This all looks really good. Extend blocks, block convert, datetime. Yeah, so nice to see this. I'm going to go ahead and approve this one. And we'll go ahead and merge that in. Labeled for 2.0, has some refactoring. All the checks are green. To me, that's a confirm merge. All right, we have time for one more. It's 5 minutes left here. Let's see if this one might be. Okay, this is the new user. So let's see what their issue is. Date offset when constructing with milliseconds in. So let's see what their issue is originally. Only handles milliseconds if other keyword args are shorter than day/days. Okay, so this person's trying to create a date offset saying shift this date by 1 day and 1 millisecond. So let's see. So I'm not as super familiar with this code, but if milliseconds in keywords, no nanoseconds, return time delta, use relative delta. Okay, so it's kind of pedantic, but we don't put doc strings into our tests. We have a ton of tests, so they get a little unwieldy. So I'll say thanks for the idea here, but don't include doc strings as part of tests. I tell you what, I'll even give him, or this person, an actual suggestion. I guess I can't do that. Can you multi-select lines and do a suggestion? Let's see. No. Okay, I'll go back to what I was doing before. And I think this generally is okay though. Let me just see what else is going on here. Pandas libs offsets dot pix, and this is line 317. Again, turn off my fly make. So this is a determine offset thing, and in this case, we're returning a tuple. I'm not sure. Okay, well, I guess we typically return offset use relative delta. So how is that constructor? Time delta. Okay, so I think it would be more idiomatic if we just stuck with, instead of returning here early, can you assign to offset and use relative delta. Okay. And merge conflict. Great. So love seeing stuff like that. And with that, we are pretty much at time. So thank you everybody for attending today. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in future streams. I'll be here on Saturdays, and have fun developing. Bye now.